It's becoming pretty apparent at this point that the channel is just going through the Anbennar arc, and I made the mistake of, in the last video, saying I was going to try and make a video for each of the fantasy races. Just one of the many times I say something without actually considering the consequences, because there are a lot of fantasy races in Anbennar. Not to mention, within each of those fantasy races, there are a bunch of different playstyles, usually, for each of them. A lot of different countries, a lot of different mission trees, so playing just one doesn't really do it justice. And that's relevant to today because we're playing dwarves, and because there are so many different dwarf countries you can actually play as. There are dwarves over here, more dwarves over here, even dwarves all the way over here in the east. To give you that classic dwarf experience, the way I think they were sort of conceived of first and then maybe expanded upon later, we're gonna play in the Serpent Spine, the giant mountain range that splits this, well, I guess multiple continent area into a few pieces. Specifically, we're going to be playing Ardstun, which just recently had its mission tree updated. So for the people watching who don't know what Anbennar is, hopefully do know what EU4 is, as a game at least, but maybe haven't watched any of the other Anbennar videos. This is still EU4, of course, but a fantasy overhaul mod. You know, I talked about dwarves already, fantasy races already, and clearly the world is very different. Think like Dungeons and Dragons, but what if we made it a geopolitical simulator, kind of? There are hundreds to thousands of years of in-universe lore explaining how everything came to be. Lore which is always changing and adapting because, of course, it is, you know, first and foremost, it's a mod. In fact, a collection of mods, as they are working on Anbennar equivalents for Crusader Kings 3 and Victoria 3 as well. So everything here has lore, including us, of course. We are Ardstun, a hold, not an adventurer band, in contrast to many of the ways you would typically play dwarves in the Serpent Spine. In particular, we are one of the holds which has held on throughout the collapse of the old dwarven empire that used to rule at least a good part of the Serpent Spine. Not too sure myself how much of the Serpent Spine. The dwarven empire was pretty advanced. It also happened like a few thousand years ago. Like, the dwarves are super old, and it kind of makes sense canonically for the dwarves, because, you know, even our current queen is 132 years old. Dwarves live a long time. But since the collapse of the empire, the dwarves have just kind of been trying to survive because there have been like millions of orcs and goblins in the Serpent Spine, which only very recently left. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them left recently, went into a place up here. We call that the Age of Greentide. That's why we're in the current Age of Greentide. But with all of the orcs and goblins leaving for the most part, that means we're kind of open to expand and try to re-establish the old dwarven empire, and as one of the few surviving remnant states, that is ideally our goal. Now, each dwarf doesn't necessarily have the ambition of restoring the dwarven empire. I mean, we certainly have quite a few missions. This isn't all of them, and I myself am not exactly sure where our missions are going to take us, but I guess we'll just have to find out. Before we really get started, here's a quick rundown for the things that affect us because we are dwarves. The most impactful for us is going to be that global settler increase at the start, but we do get cheaper reduced inflation costs and increased production efficiency, which is nice. Our military is very good with artillery, but not quite so good at pretty much anything else. We can start off by handing out our privileges to the estates. We do have to be a little bit careful though, because we don't want to give any privileges to the lapidaries. This has to do with a mission later on. Unfortunately, right now we can't really do too much with the estates because of the various issues we have, so we can start off, I think, by just seizing land, letting things happen the way that they're going to happen. Our mission tree requires that we have a military advisor at 95% of the force limit filled out. You can do that pretty easily by hiring a couple of adventurers. That'll do that before a month ticks by. We can also just hire any military advisor. It doesn't really matter that much. And as for the last thing we need to scry dissidents, because yes, there's magic in this mod, of course. The mage estate is more than willing to cast any spells that we need in exchange for a bit of money. So if we scry internal dissidents and we go ahead and wait a couple of days, we should have this mission finished before our disaster actually fires, because we are supposed to get one, Remnant Stagnation, and it is supposed to happen, I think, in a single month. However, because this mission has effects on that outcome, it might even be worth it to just preempt the issue. Here's a bit of lore if you want to pause the video and read it. It also coincides with the lore from this mission, so you can go ahead and read both of them. TLDR, we've been sitting around for a while, and maybe it's time to, like, not stagnate anymore, maybe, who knows. So, which faction are we going to support? I think we're going to go with the Reclaimers or the Expansionists. In fact, I do like the plan of the expansionists, so maybe we do go with that. Totally forgot to mention our religion, by the way, ancestor worship. It isn't the only dwarven religion, but it is the one that is more, I guess, secularized. The ancestor worship is more about like past dwarven heroes and figures and less so about the gods that the older dwarves used to worship, and you know, some of them do still worship the gods. More importantly though, it does have gameplay mechanics, very similar to the way that Coptic works actually. We have holy sites, we go and reclaim them, you know, controlled, they need to be the right religion, all that stuff. We do start with one, which is of course Arg Ordston, and considering the speed at which we don't colonize, I guess, it might be worth it to grab the colonizing one. So the Beholden are the faction inside the hold, which don't really want to change anything. That's dumb, of course, because the Serpent Spine itself is changing, so if we decide to like not do anything, then we'll just be like eclipsed at some point. Of course, the Beholden don't really know that. They don't have that sort of wide perspective. So I think we might just anger the Beholden. I don't know. See if maybe we can crush that faction. We'll see. We're gonna keep on funding the expansionists. Fund the Diamond Guard as well. That's cool. Oh, hello there. Rest of our general area. I think I'm just gonna keep on expanding the expansionists. Keep increasing their readiness. Okay, we might actually have to do something this time, because if we try to help anybody, then the Beholden get pretty upset at that, but that's kind of too bad. I think the expansionists are kind of like the ideal faction to support. And a second time. Lovely. Beholden are being kind of annoying about this, but I think it's kind of a skill issue, to be honest. You can make them angrier, and then I think we're just gonna purge them. If that works, and if it doesn't, that could be bad. Lose one stability, but at the very least, I think we have completely purged the faction now, haven't we? Well, they're appeased, in quotations, but yeah. It has been kind of a mess trying to navigate through this whole faction system. It's the second time that the Beholden are trying to set us back. On the other hand, looking at all of these modifiers, I mean, we could fight them, but there's like a 50% chance that I'm fighting 12,000 troops instead of 6,000. We got lucky the first time, but I don't know if we can do that a second time. Although, to be fair, probably wouldn't be that bad. Also, I'm so dumb. Like, immediately after that, I got an event that gave me free stability. I didn't bump it up twice. Yeah, that kind of sucks. I should bump it up once, though, at least. Anyway, yeah, it wasn't that bad. Okay, we've finally gotten enough influence with the expansionists to be able to break our stagnation. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have focused so much on the other ones, because I don't know if it actually matters in the end. Yeah, okay, clearly it's just the expansionist faction's the only one that really matters. Look at all that tax income. That's pretty good. Now, another thing is that it's not just about us colonizing. In fact, we do have to do that, so we might as well send somebody out. We'll go with repression policy, because we do need as much settler increase as possible. We'll start with one colony, because frankly, I don't think we make enough money to put out two. As for this mission here, since we're no longer in our stagnation, it's not like a big deal, but we will eventually need to have 4D development in the capital. This might be a good time to explain dwarven holds, because they're not like regular provinces. They are very different. Holds are a kind of defensive terrain, high defensiveness, reduced rolls for attackers, but also holds are cheaper to develop. And not just cheaper to develop based on the terrain, but also cheaper to develop because they have dig levels. Currently, we are a dig level 2 underground hold, but I'm pretty sure the level can stack like significantly. I don't exactly remember how deep a hold can go. It might be like 10 levels or something. But as you do so, the local development cost gets cheaper and cheaper. So in other words, the more you develop, then the cheaper it becomes to develop. Or in other words, it's, you know, just kind of consistent for the most part. That makes developing not actually all that scary. It's not like we're going to be spending like 20,000 points per click eventually. In fact, we should start by expanding infrastructure to make it even a little bit cheaper. We'll throw on encourage development as well, and we'll start working on it. It's also, I think, pretty important that we should go ahead and grab a few of these things, because I have some ideas here. We should definitely grab religious state and maybe primacy of the nobility. Not the one for the guilds yet, though. The adventurers also have a thing for the Dwarvar reclamation initiative, so we'll take that. We could actually decide to sell some titles. We'll go ahead and take out just a couple of loans, just enough for us to be able to increase our Emporium to a level 2 or 9% dev cost reduction. Then at 30 development, we can expand infrastructure twice again and keep on developing. Coincidentally, it's also given us the Renaissance. That's nice. We'll go ahead and embrace that because it is pretty much free for us. And that means we have finished our mission. Here's a little bit more lore, by the way. The doors to Arg Ordston were permanently closed, forbidding all the Diamond Dwarves from leaving the hold, and this lasted for, you know, just a short 6,000 years. However, because so many orcs and goblins have left the Serpent Spine, it's kind of empty in here, so we're like, maybe we should actually do something after 6,000 years. Wouldn't that be crazy? So we open the gates, we change pretty much everything about our society, we even lose the stability, but we get some innovativeness, we get an additional colonist, more settler growth, and a new tier 2 government reform. We get a parliament, and we get something called roughness instability. Apparently, the roughness meter is going to be a measure of the control of the entrenched interests of old. In other words, those guys that we had to fight so many times earlier. And it seems the goal is to try and reduce this roughness down to 0. Currently, we're getting some pretty bad effects right now, so we want to decrease it. And the way we can do that is by finishing parliament issues, having positive stability, and finishing some mission rewards. So let's start with the parliament, because we actually don't have any seats. It's going to be interesting to see what we can do with this. Now, it would have been nice to have this before we developed, but I suppose the entire point was to develop without getting that modifier first. In that case, we'll just get something simple like crown land ownership. That's fine. We don't have any seats though, so we need to assign 1 to the capital, and then we can just bribe it. It's fine. It looks like that has decreased our roughness by 2. So for each parliament issue we successfully complete, we lose 2 roughness. That's good to know. Now, the thing is, despite having, in theory, enough money to colonize both provinces at the same time, we don't really have, like, the force limit for it, because these guys are actually pretty tough to fight. That's why it's going to be really nice when we pick up that first Miltech, because we kind of need that just in order to colonize anything. Yeah, so turns out it's not exactly the easiest to expand into these areas. Look at my manpower, like, we're kind of cooked. Every time there's an uprising here, it's like 10,000 troops, and they have kind of insane tactics bonus, like plus 0.5 military tactics. Just to put that into perspective, we have 0.5 military tactics, so they literally fight as well as we do. Should be made a little bit easier through this military tech though. Oh, that's a great event to have. I was just about to mention how we can barely afford these 3 colonies, and then, yeah, that's great. Well, at the very least, I can take out 1 tax development to make sure I only have to take out 1 loan, but we're gonna have to take out another anyway, because we just don't have enough troops to be able to garrison all these colonies, so we're gonna have to take out another mercenary company. Oh, I see. So the point of the assembly is actually to make sure we have to give concessions. It's not about giving us free stuff, it's about having to pay more. Nice. Well, it does decrease the roughness, and not having a debate does increase the corruption. While we're sitting here reclaiming the Serpent Spine, we might as well pick up our technology, including an idea group. Not that I'm really sure what idea group I actually want. We're not playing a normal country, so we're not exactly locked towards the opening meta, which is usually saving your admin for expansion and instead taking a different idea group. But because we're just kind of sitting here, colonizing, not really doing much for the next little while, I actually wouldn't mind picking up an admin group. Leaning towards infrastructure a little bit just for the dev cost, but if I'm gonna pick up something really early, then maybe innovative wouldn't even be a bad idea. I think maybe if we didn't take this, if we didn't like sponsor the expansionists, then at that point, reasonably, you could be like, yeah, we'll take expansion ideas. That makes sense. But because we get so much global settler increase and an extra colonist, I just don't think it's necessary. So I actually will go with innovative. Daring today, I know. So just out of curiosity, if I wait for this to finish itself and then take the bottom option, I'm guessing we're gonna be fine and we don't have to pay the 100 crowns. It would be really funny actually if this causes it to decolonize completely, but I don't think it's going to. Yeah, we're fine. Now with this entire area completely under our control, we've completed this mission. Honestly, not the best rewards for us at the moment, but I'll take it. More importantly, we've also finished this mission. See, this is the entire reason I didn't give any privileges to the lapidary guilds, because you have 2 choices. Either they can have less than 2 privileges, meaning just the one they start with, or we can empower them. Now, it says that the Gromdal guild is curtailed and provides better effects. I don't know if that means that it provides better effects than if you empowered them, but that's how I interpreted it. So, oh, that's what they mean. It gives better effects as in, it gives us reform progress and reduces roughness on a monthly basis. Whereas previously, I think it just took tax money from us. So that's good, that's an improvement at least. It also means I can finally actually fix my estates. You've probably noticed I've had this sitting around for a while, mostly because we don't have enough manpower to both fight off the colonies and also to deal with rebels that pop up every time we do this. Not enough manpower and literally not enough mercenaries. We fired all of them. So we can hand out supremacy over the crown. I didn't do that earlier because of the influence for the lapidary guilds, although I guess in hindsight it would have been barely fine, I guess. You can get colonial charters and patronage of the arts, all the basic stuff. Oh boy. Yeah, we really can't afford to deal with this at the moment. As much as I would hate to, I don't think we can really take the top option right now. We have about 2,000 troops, so yeah, as much as it pains me, I guess we're gonna have to take this one. For the third reform, really just to balance the estates a little bit better, I'm gonna take decentralized bureaucracy. I'll also go ahead and summon the diet. Gonna sell some titles as well, take some of that land back. Can build a temple in the capital, and they'll repay all those loans. We've gotten around to finishing this mission off as well, just gives us a couple of permaclaims and a bit of discovery. Next, we have to make our way down to here, and we have to get rid of these guys, who have a surprising number of soldiers, but they don't have Tech 6, so it doesn't matter that much. Oh boy, that's a lot of rebels. Really makes me wonder if that's supposed to be the right number of rebels. Yeah, that's, what is that, 56,000 rebels? I didn't even know we had 56,000 dwarves. I guess we're taking the bottom option. That kind of sucks, but, you know, it is what it is. Besides, we do have passive decay. It's not like the worst thing in the world. Tier 4 reform. I'm kind of a big fan of this one. The extra land leader chunk early on is pretty decent. So I made the mistake of opening up this expedition without realizing that the danger level is the highest possible one, but I'm sure that's not going to be that big of a deal, right? We actually do have some manpower now that we have a decent enough technology to protect the colonies with fewer men. Oh right, I should explain. So expeditions are found in the Serpent Spine. You're basically looking for like old dwarven stuff most of the time, but not always. You have to move over some troops to the actual province that the expedition is in. There are these little icons right here. So we can put in 10,000 people. See, now they're gone. And we have to supply them. The greater the length of the expedition, the more supplies you're going to want, but it's probably better to just like give them as many supplies as possible. Apparently the big idea is to raise the share quite a bit. Since the estimated loot is going to be like 700, we're gonna try and like make sure that we at least recuperate the costs. So we're putting in 745 as our investment, and in theory we should get up to maybe 2,000. We'll see. Hopefully we're prepared enough. On the bright side, because we have elaborate expansion plans, it also increases the expedition speed. You know, hopefully we can move fast enough that we can just go through the entire expedition without too many issues, but that's never how it happens. Okay, great. Our party encounters its first battle. That's lovely. Well, hey, you know, only losing 350 soldiers, they can't be that bad. For the age ability, naturally we're going to take higher developed colonies. And we do actually have enough manpower now, I think. So we'll get rid of increased levies. That's kind of been an issue with the nobility, owning 2/3 of all of the crown land. Current heir dies, a 152, so not really that big of a deal. And the expedition is back. We get 25 prestige, and the loot from that expedition, after paying the expeditionaries, of course, amounts to 585 crowns and 195 of each power point, which is pretty good. I also waited for them to finish just so I can put them back out in the field. I wasn't quite sure how many were going to return, and I didn't want to overstack my army, but at this point we can just go ahead and fight the people we have to fight. I don't have the world's largest army or anything, but I do have Tech 7 while these guys have Tech 3. So in theory, my military tactics are more than double theirs. Still a somewhat tough fight, but really not that bad. It is a little bit annoying to chase them around, but at the very least I'm stacking a whole bunch of army traditions, so I don't mind that much. Ooh, that's pretty nice. I'll take that. Revolt of the Clans. Yeah, that's not great. You know what? I really don't want that guy become the ruler, actually. So before I just let this happen, let me at least take a look at that. 6 noble rebels in every owned province. That's lovely. That's a great thing to have while you're fighting a war, actually. Let me go sell some titles. I'm gonna start stacking up a whole bunch of, well, actually, we do not have a lot of room for people. Well, that's kind of too bad. It's just for a little while. Okay, let's see what happens. Or maybe I just didn't read that correctly. Because, actually, this was not a problem in the slightest. I definitely misread something, but oh well. And I'll be taking that. We should have another expedition somewhere. Yep, up here. Another danger level mithril. Okay, well, let's start by dropping some manpower in that. I think that should probably do it. Ah, there goes the queen. It almost feels pointless that we had that civil war, but it is what it is. Dwarves usually live up to 200 years, I see, okay. So we have our new king, a 263, not terrible, and it seems, oh, there we go. So oppositionists, it's removed from the country. That was the thing that was causing all of our estates to be more disloyal. We do have a power vacuum that we're probably gonna have to fix, but it doesn't seem that bad. What is bad is mostly those 26,000 rebels that are gonna fire, whereas previously it was not 26,000, I'll tell you that. On the bright side, we did manage to get a few more mercenary companies that we can actually use, so we might as well slap one down in the capital. Oh yeah, that's a great event to have right now. Lose 3 roughness, lose 150 admin, we gain quite a bit of crown land, that's nice. Everybody loses loyalty, we get reduced admin efficiency for 20 years. I mean, that's not that bad, at least not at the moment. Otherwise, we could increase our settler chance, although I think we're still kind of fine on that. I think I'm gonna take this one. It's a little harsh, but that's okay. I can see the goblins are kind of chilling on my border, and I don't really like that. Might have to kill them. Who knows? Actually, we do know, and in fact, we do have to kill them. It is literally part of a mission, this one. Next idea group. At this point, I would definitely be willing to go with offensive ideas. Not only do we get the 20% siege ability, but it does stack pretty well with our innovative ideas, giving us an additional 10% plus 1 leader siege for each of our leaders. It's the closest thing we're really going to get to the idea of siege ideas for the dwarves. And you know, that is kind of our thing. Let's go ahead and sell some titles. And we'll build a mage tower in the capital since we have an agenda for that. I'm also thinking, because I did pick up this conquistador, I'm grabbing this over here, we should be able to defeat the goblins, I think. It might be a little bit tough, but as long as we just, go in here and stay here, then there should be no problem, I think. We will get pretty decent defensive bonuses on this, and it's not like we have to, defeat them. We can just capture the province and then sit on it for a while. We should also steal the maps of this area. In theory, we could even just sit on that. Ooh, let's not sit on that province, actually. Never mind. Could try to bait them, though, since I don't think the harpies are here yet. There we go. It is kind of a tough fight. Oh, of course, it turns out we can't even take it because, yeah, right, fort rules and EU4 are lovely. Looks like the expedition is back, though. 722 crowns and 240 of each power point. That's pretty decent. Hey, remember how it said curtailing them is going to lead to better outcome? It's like I'm playing Baldur's Gate or something, like I make one choice and then a couple hours later that choice comes back and it's like, whoa, that's crazy. I will definitely take that though. So a little TLDR on this event, it looks like the dwarves can actually literally speak to the dead. So we just asked the previous queen, the one that just died, if the new king would be a worthy successor. And she's like, yeah, which is very funny. That's it, just sure. Now this is perfect terrain to be fighting the goblins on. Hopefully we can stack wipe them. The worst part is that I actually do have to siege them. It's really annoying. Oh boy. We can't just have simple issues. It's always gotta be one thing after another. Well, at the very least, that was just a stack wipe of the goblins. They have 650 total troops left. I'm actually pretty glad that these rebels are sieging that because I can just wait until they have a decent amount of progress and then I can steal the siege myself. 2 wall breaches. 3 wall breaches, actually. Impressive. Might just have to steal that. Thank you. My siege now. Feels really dumb that I even had to do this, but while I'm here, I'm not just gonna let it go to waste. I will take full war reps, full money. You know what? I wouldn't even mind going for a humiliate. It's not even that much more war score. Okay, I think that's fine. We could break the alliance with Ireland, but I think we'd have to siege a little more than I care to, so that's okay. Thank you. We have discovered Ovdalodum, which is the prerequisite for this quest, but it seems like their capital has more development, and we can't have that, so we might have to sink a couple of points, although it's gonna suck because we can't dump any more Diplo points, and that's the only thing we have in abundance. So that's great. We can expand the quarries, though. Gain base production in all of the cavern provinces in Arg Ordston, this area over here, and those provinces also receive reduced development cost and increased goods production. We also have more expeditions to uncover. One over here, another one over here. So let's start with this one. I went ahead and dropped a few more points into the capital just so that we can finish this mission over here. The LDR for the lore for this mission, apparently humans and dwarves just like chilling in this hold rather than just dwarves. And the idea is that we send them like a marriage proposal and maybe we're chilling with that. I don't know. And okay, so we send the marriage proposal. We'll find out what this does. I'm not sure if their chance of accepting it has to do with, possibly their opinion of us, but hopefully it doesn't matter. So in this province over here, if we spend a little bit of money and also lose 4 base production, we could start producing mithril. Now, copper is pretty decent, but I'm pretty sure mithril is slightly better. We do have one example. Yeah, okay, that's not slightly better, that's pretty decent. So some fungus in the area is mining the mithril, and we can exchange food for the mithril. Okay. Yeah, sure. Why not? Okay, so, they said no. I think canonically they're supposed to deny us. I don't think there's a chance of them, saying yes. Which makes sense. I mean, yeah, that would be kind of like a free subject that's very strong. Instead, we'll have to subjugate them, so it is what it is. Instead of doing that expedition, actually, let's do that. I'm sure they understand. Although, they do have a war wizard. That's not the greatest. It's a little risky, since they do have that war wizard, but it's 310 in a cavern, so it's gonna be more like 1-8 versus our 4-6. So, who can really say? That actually wasn't that bad. New heir to the throne. Tragically, even worse than the last one, I think. So, that's unfortunate. Oh, right, because we did take this hold, we can finish this mission. 15 years of reduced stability cost, which doesn't mean much because we have +3, and +2 tolerance of the true faith. We do get a few claims, but I don't think they matter that much. It's really just the stuff in this area, I think, which is uncolonized, so it doesn't matter. That sure took a while, but they did eventually surrender. Turn them into a vassal, grab all their money, of course. Thank Thank you very much. We also have our new reform. I guess war games would probably make the most sense. Oh, and what do you know? We get the sapphire gem. Beautiful. I'm not actually sure where the diamond gem is. I know we need to have it because that's, you know, one of our missions up here. And in theory, we're supposed to find it fast enough that it helps reduce our roughness. But I have no idea where it is. Somewhere in West Serpent Spine. Okay, cool. Now, I did mention digging this hold, but first, I'm going to take out a couple of loans. Because what I actually want to do is turn this into a level 3 center. That'll finish off this mission, which will give us a diamond district in the capital. We can also hire this guy, upgrade him a little bit, then we can dig that hole. So we do have a bit of an issue with the lapidary revolt, because if we let them take the bottom option, then we get something for the rest of the game. 15% production efficiency reduction. That's kind of a lot. We also lose 15% crown land. I kind of don't want to do that, so they can cry about it, I guess. New heir, pretty much average. I guess at this point I can just live with it. Well, no, we have a lot of prestige. It's not like the king is dying anytime soon. New heir 352, something I guess I could work with. We do also need to repair this old because, you know, we did take it from somebody. So that's the last offensive idea. It's kind of nice that we get 10% discipline because that also carries over to organization for our expeditions, so we don't need to spend as many points. I think I also forgot to explain the hold mechanics. It's worth giving a refresher to people who are, you know, new to Anbennar. So holds are the ancient cities of the Dwarven Empire. After the Dwarven Empire fell, the cities remained, but, you know, weren't necessarily in the best condition. Some of them just got cleared out, no more dwarves, instead they got inhabited by goblins or orcs. There are also some holds just kind of out and about, like Ruby Hold has one in this little area over here. There's also one like right there. They can only really be used by subterranean races, so like goblins, dwarves, kobolds. Without that, then you get a penalty, half tax, half production. Most importantly, I think at some point we mentioned the dig levels. You can just keep on digging these. It does take quite a bit of time, and I think it used to be more expensive as well. I don't think it's as expensive as it used to be. But every time you dig a new level, it expands this modifier. Most importantly, it just makes it cheaper to develop. I think I mentioned that part maybe. Also, whenever you siege a hold, it does a little bit of damage to it. In this last war, we sieged down this hold. It did a bit of damage to it, so it is a damaged hold. Fortunately, the AI, I guess, has a priority to repair damaged holds, which is good because we actually need them to repair that hold in order to finish this mission. And then sometimes you get ones that kind of just trolling you. Spend points to gain a bit of prestige and set back construction a little bit, but if you don't, then there's a chance of losing stability. You know what? I'm gonna take that chance. I don't even care. Now that they've repaired the hold, the plan is apparently just to be nice to them, so okay. And the expedition has returned. I'm not quite sure if we got everything we put in, but it's probably close enough. We'll send them back out to another expedition. I guess they didn't find the diamond at that point. Maybe it'll be over here, if it's even something that we find this way. I don't know. That'll probably do it. Here we go. We managed to get rid of all of the roughness, triggering this new event, reforming our government, getting rid of all the corruption, all the plots, the backstabbing, the schemes, the bribery. We get 100 of each power point, plus 50 admin, because I'm assuming that was supposed to be a stability, and a new tier 2 government reform, which is good considering ours sucks really bad. Now we have a new mechanic, luster. Instead of hoping to decrease it, we now increase our luster, which hopefully is reflected in the missions as well, because it seems like it's been replaced. There you go. And we have a couple of abilities. Force the next estate agenda to be completed, force the parliament debate to be completed, and every owned province loses 15% autonomy. That's pretty decent. Reduce rebel progress by 30%, gain 1 stability, and a bunch of loyalty. Diamonds are unbreakable. Good reference, if it's meant to be one. We lose 3 war exhaustion, and we reduce morale damage received for the next 10 years. So, maybe the weakest out of all of these, but not terrible. This is, of course, unique to us playing these dwarves, by the way. If we were to play other dwarves, we would have completely different mechanics, because we'd have a different mission tree. So, again, that's why I was a little hesitant to make the dwarf video, because I had to pick carefully which dwarves would be, like, actually decent ones to showcase. I put down a little bit of development, and that just so happened to be enough to be able to upgrade ourselves to a kingdom rank. It seems like the mission tree wants us to integrate our subject, although it does say that this province needs to be a core of my subject, which means we're either going to have to colonize it and hand it to them, or wait for them to colonize it. That's gonna take a while, so I can't actually integrate them yet. I'm not allowed to. I'm also gonna use this hold to spawn colonialism. I've already dropped a few points into it. Now, it's not quite enough just that we spawn colonialism in here, because it's gonna take a, you know, decently long time to get to this province. What I mean is, I could just develop this a little bit more too. I've been creating a little corridor in here to get from our capital hold all the way to this one. So all these provinces have decently high developments so they can spread colonialism fairly quickly. I guess the expedition failed? That kind of sucks. I thought I was overkill with that. Huh. Not a big deal. We just toss some people into a different cavern, I guess. So this one's gonna be rather long. I'm gonna make sure that the morale stays up. I think that was the biggest issue last time. So 10 morale. Organization is already pretty decent because we have high discipline. We got one event for it, so pretty good. We will, just in case, still give them a little bit of organization because, you know, the total costs are still underneath the lowest estimated loot, so I don't think it's gonna be that bad. And it's the new age. Tragically, we never had a chance of getting our golden era in the last one, and it looks like it's gonna be more of the same. Well, actually, own at least 5 level 2 holds. We can definitely do that. And a large city is easy. The other one, well, kind of depends on what's a continent, is technically Sarhal is a different continent than the Serpent Spine, even though, I mean, the Serpent Spine's kind of in Sarhal here. But it means in theory I could just like take one province and that's all I would need. I was hoping to roleplay a little bit by just not conquering anything outside the Serpent Spine, but I kind of want the golden era, so I guess I'll take a little bit. Just think of it as like a buffer state, kinda, owned by me. Anyway, we finished repairing this last hold over here. I actually just kind of forgot to repair it. This hold, by the way, it's technically a surface hold and actually does connect to this province, even though it might be a little bit hard to tell just because of the angle. It does connect here. So the whole idea behind this is we can kind of reopen to the rest of the world. And, you know, it's kind of thematically appropriate given that we're, you know, invading outside the Serpent Spine in a way. Ovdal Tungur, these guys over here, I'm pretty sure they're the boat dwarves. I think it's these guys. I mean, their hold is literally coastal, so I'm just guessing here. Apparently they don't like us. That sucks. I don't know if that's also scripted, but it seems like every other dwarf that we've met just kind of doesn't like us for some reason. That's cool, I guess. You know, maybe we have good reason, actually, to leave the Serpent Spine and make our way over this direction. Maybe we have to reunite with those dwarves, in quotations. You know, I didn't think the Harpies would actually go into the Serpent Spine. That's kind of on me. Well, it doesn't really matter since we're pretty much done with this war anyway. I only want a few things. We're done fixing this hold up. The TLDR behind this one is we're not exactly sure how this hold even fell in the first place. It really shouldn't have. I don't even know, to be honest. If I had to guess, it would have to do with the deep woods, which are directly to our north. It's full of like fey magical creatures that like to pull pranks and stuff, but are also pretty powerful magic users. And so to reflect that, we're building a mage tower. We're going to try to rebuild the ward to protect it from whatever ruined it the first time. Antique machine. Could sell it, 300 crowns, or for innovativeness. Come on, you know I'm grabbing the innovativeness. So here we are on our next reform. Assembly of holds. Clearly that's going to be unique for us. As long as we have 3 or more holds, then we can do this. So I assume it's probably a decent idea, but disabling calling the diet? I don't like that very much. In fact, maybe I don't like this at all. We have the parliament to disable something I actually like having. How about instead we go with general estates? I guess once you have high luster, there's really no downside to just like grabbing one of these. So I'll go with this because I did just lose a stability through an event. Very powerful government ability, I might like to add. Pretty satisfied with the spread of the institution. So I'll take out a couple of loans just to embrace that. Take all the techs, of course. And for our next idea group, I don't actually know what I want at this point. The Serpent Spine isn't quite fully colonized, so we're at a weird spot where we can't even colonize that much more. This stuff over here does need to be colonized, but I'm not just gonna take expansion for that. It's kind of lame. I know I'm supposed to integrate my subject over here, but I don't really want to take influence ideas just to do that. Diplomatic would actually be a somewhat decent compromise. We do get the Diplo rep, so we can integrate faster, but it's not like it's stuff that's going to be wasted on not having subjects, because we do get the province war score cost and everything else is pretty helpful anyway. And now that we've embraced the institution, we have become a great power. And if you think about it, we've become a great power almost completely through developing. Like 80% of this has to be dev. Speaking of dev clicks, actually, I'm gonna wait for this prosperity to finish, and then I'm gonna grab the rest of the dev clicks I need in order to dig this deeper. Now, that hold is gonna take like 17 years to complete, but it'll be well worth it. Oh, hold on a second. Right, as we keep digging, it's going to be difficult as the rock gets harder, or I guess in this case, as we encounter different materials, which might make it hard to actually build on. My natural inclination is to take the top option. Increase dig speed until the end of the game. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. But this has to be a double-edged sword. Something's gonna happen, but I guess we'll find out. The old gods, you say? Interesting. We'll see what happens in a year. Here we go. The expedition has returned. Now, they didn't quite return with as much as I thought they would give us, but it's still pretty decent. And of course, we still didn't actually find the gem. The diamond is still somewhere in West Serpent Spine. Although, now that I think about it, West Serpent Spine is kind of a big place. I really thought this was like North Serpent Spine in that just this was West Serpent Spine. Never mind. At the very least, let's head back into this one province. Okay. Let's look into the old gods. Why not? Yeah, don't worry. It's not old gods like some kind of eldritch type of thing. At least, I don't think so, actually. You know what? I could just be lying. They could be. The Anbennar lore goes deep. I just noticed we have a new disaster popping up here. A Zirnuk. And if I had to guess by those modifiers, it probably has to do with the old gods. Now, from what I know about the dwarf disasters is that they're always very fun. I don't think this is actually the worst one, though. I think there's a different one called, like, the Obsidian Legion that is far worse. But it doesn't really show up as, like, a disaster. I think they just kind of show up on the map and become annoying, I'm pretty sure. So do we want to rediscover the dwarven pantheon? I don't know what the mechanics are. Purely vibes-based at this point. They do have tolerance to the true faith and yearly legitimacy compared to our fort defense and cost of advisors with rulers culture. The second one is actually pretty decent. You know what? Sure, why not? So Dagrin Everbeard was the chief god of the old pantheon. We can make rapid progress towards Azirnuk. If it says we can claim the first convert bonus, then maybe we should. These are tough events because clearly one option is up front better than the other one. However, I have a feeling the top option is probably the ideal one. So, a new deity. I'm not really liking any of these options, but maybe we can go a little bit balanced. We might lose a point, but that's, oh well, I guess. In fact, I don't think we did. We're gonna keep going with a little bit of balance. We could get, what is that, 70 years of additional goods produced in the capital? Either way, we're gonna lose some progress on digging, but we could gain 2 stability instead of losing 1. And how much money is that really even worth? Actually, it would make a decent amount. Yeah, sure, whatever, we'll take it. Stability's pretty much free for us anyway. We literally have a button for it. This would actually be the perfect opportunity to start this issue, then also grab one of these, and then we can go through here and finish them. Ooh, we will unlock a new major deity. We'll take the bottom option. That works. So here's the thing. We're about to finish this. This is the last deity we can find. It's gonna be a little bit painful, but that's okay. At the very least, some of them are fighting each other. The thing is, this disaster's about to begin. The God Wake. The Dwarven Pantheon becomes the new state religion of Arg Ordston. Now it's time for the religious struggle. We're gonna have to convert, like, everything. Fortunately, we are given 4 missionaries, so it's not gonna be that bad. And it seems to me like we only discovered 4 deities, so maybe we'll find more at some point, but at the very least, we do have 1 major deity and a couple of minor deities, allowing us to also perform a ritual. Not sure what that does, but I'm sure it's going to be an important enough mechanic. It does mean that we're no longer eligible for this, and instead we can go with cheaper admin tech cost. Oh yay, more rebels. Okay. Completely different religion, by the way. Now, what do we think about the ancestors? I think that having this temporary tolerance to the true faith malice and in exchange getting tolerance of heretics is going to be kind of helpful. I mean, especially, you know, not having to fight more people and not losing stability. That's kind of great. We should also press this button, gain a bit of stability, since we're probably going to lose quite a bit of stability. I lied, this is painful. This is, I think, already far worse than the majority of disasters in vanilla EU4. So we can either lose a stability, 100 of each point, and 700 crowns, or kick everyone from the court. You know what, actually? This isn't even that bad of an idea. Yeah, hold on a second. These guys are pretty expensive. I can live with this, actually. The expedition has returned, although they are giving 80% autonomy to this hold. I don't remember what I did to make that happen, but it's probably fine. We gain a bunch of points and a bunch of money. That works for me. Thing is, we can't actually hold all this. We have too much admin, too much mill, so we're going to have to develop first. But hold on a second. I think we actually did find the diamond. We did find the diamond. At last, finally. I mean, it just makes sense to me that it would be over this direction. We are the diamond dwarves. It'd be kind of weird to have diamond dwarves here and have the diamond, like, up here or something. We've also finished off diplomatic ideas. We can grab some cheaper advisors with that. And we finished a mission. The Crown Jewel. 20 legitimacy, 20 prestige, and 10 luster. It's not like the craziest event out there, but it's nice to have the gem back. Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. Lose 75 Diplo and 75 mil to convert a province, or just lose the stability. That's great. Well, you know, stability is incredibly expensive, and we don't get that much luster, so I'd rather not lose a whole bunch of stability. It also helps us convert faster, you know? We certainly have the money to start another expedition. This one's not very dangerous, just medium length. Not a lot of expected loot either. But still a few more titles, take some more land back. This time just to have money for events. Well, all things considered, it wasn't exactly the toughest disaster to get through. It was just a lot of waiting and a lot of paying. We get to choose for the next 50 years. Do we want a global settler increase, morale of armies, and war score cost versus other religions, or do we want dev cost, missionary strength, and construction cost? Now, the thing is, the war score cost versus other religions is actually not that helpful. I mean, sure, it would help with this guy, but this hold is Dwarven Pantheon, or subjects, Dwarven Pantheon, war Dwarven Pantheon. It would only really matter once we get up to the north with here. And I mean, it is 50 years. A lot can happen in 50 years, so maybe it's helpful. But I think every other dwarf has, well, most of the other dwarves did convert. I feel like we're going to get more use specifically out of the development cost. I've just realized that now that we've fully converted our country, or mostly at least, it means that we not only finish this objective, but also this one is not, at least apparently it's not just about swapping to Coronite or Rebellion, but any of the quote emerging faiths, which includes the dwarven pantheon. So that means we can actually go ahead and start our golden era, and I think I'm going to. Not only that, but we don't really have any use for any of these except for, I guess maybe, we will be invading these guys. So it would be nice to get cheaper war score on them. The rest of these things are pretty much irrelevant. The hold has been dug, and apparently, oh right, yes. That was the point. Reaching certain dig levels in the holds does unlock new deities for us. So we got Karaslov, I think a minor deity. Speaking of which, we could pick some. Let's give ourselves a month to see if that guy will appear, and he hasn't. Okay. Well, anyway, we have a few provinces to convert still, so I'll take the missionary strength. We've also finished this mission by completing that dig. It'll upgrade the centers of trade in these two provinces, this one and this one, to level 2. They're already level 2, so instead, we're going to gain 200 gold each, and one province in this area that isn't producing gems will instead change to gems. Next, we have to tell the world that we've returned, and that's going to involve sending a gift to Tellum, and also making friends with some of the countries over here. Our subject has finished colonizing this one province over here. We just need to increase the influence of the mages, which is kind of a problem. See, the mages, currently they have 35 influence, and also, I'm a little bit dumb. I took that one reform that eliminates all influence gain from summoning the diet. I could give them battle mage academies, I guess, or at least temporarily reduced research regulations. Let's try that, actually. There we go, we can finish this off. Here's the lore for it. Now, I think we should actually get rid of that, since I do need to start integrating this subject. The expedition is complete with plenty of people still alive. That's good to see. We get a bit of money, a couple of points. Sounds good. Might be going a little overkill for this one, but it is what it is. So I've gotten a bunch of countries over here to about 90 opinion. However, all of them, I think, require at least 100 opinion, except for Tellum, which requires improved relations of 100, and the opinion modifier send gift of 25. So we can go ahead and send it right now. Gotta be 25, pretty simple. And then, oh, okay, only 2 other countries also need improved relations. So we can just go ahead and give a few more gifts out. And there we go, we get 10 power projection, Diplorep +1, super helpful for integrating our subject, and 20% trade steering for 15 years. There's a little bit of the lore for that one. Now, this mission is going to be interesting. We need 20% mercantilism, which is kind of expensive. After we're done integrating our subject, I don't think it'll be that hard just to spam it up a couple of times. It just kind of sucks that I have to do that, but oh well, it is what it is. But in the meantime, at the very least, we can go and invade this guy, although it might be a good idea actually to wait for our subject to be integrated before we do that. Here we go, we've discovered a few more deities. I guess we need 200 religious power in order to apply one of the greater deities, and in fact, because we have no major deities, I think, we have conflicted worship as a modifier. I think there might be a little bit more to this than I thought. Oh, I see. There's an administrative deity, a diplomatic deity, and a military deity. That's the part that I've been missing. New debate in the assembly. I'm kind of hoping to look for that one that lets me integrate a little bit cheaper, so I'll wait on that. Bit of a random tangent, but also it's, I guess, confirmed that minotaurs also exist in the mod. I mean, it makes sense. We do have harpies, and I think they're both from Greek mythology. Maybe they'll be playable one day. Probably not. For a second, I was thinking, maybe I'm just super unlucky and just not getting the parliament issue. No, I'm actually dumb. I can't get it. I don't have 2 subjects. You need to have at least 2 subjects for it to happen. In that case, I'll just take crown land ownership. And I really like this because I get to finish both the agenda and the parliament issue at the same time. You know, it's a little bit broken, maybe just a touch, but I like it. The expedition has returned. We get actually quite a bit of development in that one province, probably from some of the decisions I made. I'm not really paying too much attention to the ones I'm picking, but I think that's the last one. I don't think we have any more to explore, at least not yet. There might be one more, I think, over this direction. Yeah, 2 more actually, so we'll get there when we get there. And every time I play Anbennar, I have to like re-express how much I love the depth of the lore in this mod. Like how right now our units have just been upgraded to clockwork riflemen, basically adapting the clockwork crossbows into modern firearms just to make them reload and shoot faster. That's pretty cool. I know every video I mention it, but every video is something cooler each time. Although I don't know if you can beat goblin flamethrowers. That's pretty neat. I do hear eventually the gnomes get like tanks or something though, so let me know if you want me to play gnomes. Let's go ahead, sell some titles, take some land back. I might even be able to pay off some loans. Oh yeah, what do you know? We actually can go ahead and do another expedition. I'm not sure if I actually want to do the platinum danger level one. Never heard of that before. Nothing ventured, nothing gained though, I guess. Oh, there we go. We've integrated our subject right as I'm preparing this expedition. Isn't that nice? Look, I actually own the entire, you know, unpassable terrain in this area now. It's nice. I guess we probably should add this hold to the assembly. We do have 200 faith power, so we could decide to pick up a major deity. I was thinking it would be interesting just to grab this guy because more religious power, but it looks like with the ritual is going to give us a stability, and we already have stability, so maybe we'll go with this guy instead. It does give us very cheap advisors. Now, Gorbarad, the last non-aligned dwarven hold in the, what is this, Central Serpent Spine? Serpent Reach, close enough. We'll make the war goal the capital, because when we siege it, it should make it cheaper to take in terms of war score, and they really don't look like they're going to put up much of a fight. If I remember correctly, it's extremely annoying to fight these guys though, because they have a tendency to, you know, whichever side you decide to go down to siege, they just go down the other side. But our siege ability and spy network should be enough to make that not so much of an issue. Of course, right, so I'm sitting here, 85% siege, enemy gets it on a 14%. That's great, you know. I love this. Nothing you can really do about just, you know, bad luck. I actually don't even think I have to unsiege that. I can probably just carpet siege the rest of their country. Verkal Kozanan can just leave. And from these guys, of course, I'll take everything. I got a few events and also bumped up mercantilism manually a couple of times so we can implement all scarcity, my favorite. We get 75 admin, 75 diplo, 25% local trade power modifier, and something to do with Serpent Spine diamonds. I don't think this event has happened yet, so I guess it just prevents it from happening, and therefore I assume it was probably a bad thing. Or maybe it did happen, because I just got money for that. So maybe I missed it, I don't know. Oh, I see. Okay, that's what's decreasing the price of gems. I've also been digging this hold in the background to get it to level 5, because we need that. Okay, this is a new one. Unwelcome merchandise. Lose a stability, lose trade power, lose global trade power, and -1 monarch diplo skill for, what is that, 40 years? Lovely. On the bright side, we have 100 lusters, so I guess we can just kinda get that stability back. The Ruby Letter, okay. The traitors in Rubyhold who once doomed Al Dwarov are scared of the diamonds. They fear us because we're stronger than them, richer than them, and better than them. Okay. So they've been trying to sabotage us. I see. Interesting. The pantheon grows. 30% chance of a major deity, 70% chance of a minor deity, and we get Durvorazir. Okay, major deity, nice. Oh right, I forgot, at a certain point you can actually specialize your holds to make them do specific things. Now I think we're going to go for probably artisan infrastructure, only because local goods produced +1 will eventually affect coal, which is of course 10 ducats per month. It's gonna scale way better than 20% tax. And also I think it's thematically appropriate for it to be focused on artisanry. We literally export gems. That's the main point of the hold. Also, here's another fun little fact that you might already know, but as you have higher development in a province, you are able to spawn more and more of the institution per click. So each click will be 10 printing press. I think 10 is actually the maximum. I mean, that would make sense. But it also means that this province is so incredibly cheap to develop that for less than like 500 points, we can just like spawn the institution here. Okay, maybe it's a little more than 500 points, but the average is like 2,000 or something. So what was that, 800 points maybe? Still pretty cheap. And also, of course, if we wanted to develop it one more time, we could continue digging the next level hold. So I think canonically here, maybe these guys didn't survive. I don't know how they spawned in. Maybe adventurers reclaimed it. I don't actually know the starting situation for over here, but it seems, at least lore-wise, we prepared an army, walked up to the hold, and saw nothing. There was nobody there, at least lore-wise. We did have to fight them, but ignore that for the lore. Speaking of which, here's a little little bit more lore. We're restoring the hold. Great stuff. Next objective is High Hold. We get a permaclaim on all of Serpent Reach, which I'm pretty sure is actually the region that we have complete control over, so interesting. We also get a colonist and a global settler increase. That's actually kind of helpful. Last but not least, the return of the hegemon. All I really had to do for this one was, of course, integrate our subject and dig this to level 5. Anyway, we do gain a stability, which may or may not be turned into 50 admin, 40 legitimacy, which will be turned into monarch points, and until the end of the game, reduced province war score cost and reduced unjustified demands. And we get a permaclaim on the Jorkad Junction area, that being the one, I think, up here. Yeah, that's not it though, because once we finish the mission, we get more missions. A lot of them. But I'm sure you guys know the deal at this point. Whenever I'm playing a country that has 2 sets of missions, especially one where I finish the first set in 50 and 52, you know the video has to end here. But that doesn't mean that the playthrough necessarily has to end here. Based on how much support this video gets, I may or may not make a second part or reclaiming the entire Dwarven Empire. Assuming, of course, that's what we're supposed to do. I haven't actually looked at, like, the entire mission tree. In theory, that's the plan. So, while the gameplay is a little bit slow when playing Dwarves, I can assure you, we've already made it past the slow part. Most of the colonizing is done, and none of the really bad disasters have fired yet. And I'm pretty sure there are at least like 2 or 3 of them. Not sure if they always happen, but at the very least, there is one that's looking a little interesting. You know, having a monthly income of 150 ducats is more or less right around the corner. So that being said, if I do make a second part of this, it's certainly going to be interesting. But if you enjoyed today's video, I would ask that, you know, you want to leave a like. That would be great. It helps me know, actually, that you want to see a part 2. And I guess if you don't want to see a part 2, then comment that or something. If you're new around here, then, I don't know, subscribe if you want to do that. That'd be cool. Otherwise, for now, this is our Dwarven Empire, in quotations. Number 5 great power. Not quite there yet. And also, this is Corbett signing off. As always, have a fantastic day. Big shout out to the patrons this month, in particular Erica, Lukebecker, Nick Steffel, Cubrute, AG Fodero, Ben Mottram, Quiet Guy, Rosset, Torvalved, Ambient Cyan, James Levy, Luke 78776, and Robert. By the way, all of these people also get early access to videos, so if that's something you're interested in, it's literally $1.